1652.
Yes.
I don't think if 1652 never happened, that song would exist.
So
Never.
Youngsters dope, you guys.
So we're going to be speaking about him, Jan van Riebeck.
What?
Today.
I mean, we opened up on a light note, but today's topic is going to be quite
a serious
interesting one because we're talking all things racism. But listen, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. This is Ekse right here on Cape Town TV channel 263. We're about to bring you a lit show with interesting topics, and my oh my, we have our studio audience in the building.
One more time.
Yes.
Yes, the hashtag to use is hashtag RacismInCape Town. You can use our social media platforms, which is Ekse. On Cape Town TV, that's Facebook. On Twitter, it's Ekse_live. That number to dial 021-448-0448. My name is Llama and Siyasanga.
Vuyo,
Darlings, and he is.
I am Untitled, and thank you so much for joining us to the show. Today, we'd like to remember a very stalwart, of ours, Chris Honey, who was shot on his way back home in Rondebosch in Johannesburg. He was shot by an anti-communist refugee, Johannes Marcus. And today we're talking everything that's not racism. We are talking racism actually today. Yeah. So do join in the conversation. Our hashtag is Racism in Cape Town. So get on it. Ask us questions. We'll be very interested to actually talk to the audience about.
Dissect the topic. The South African Human Rights Commission released a report that in the past year, the claims for racism have gone up by 2%. That means that the country is in a diaspora when it comes to the racism topic. So we're discussing and unpacking all of that on the show today.
Funny enough, the Human Rights Commission that you're talking about, they were invited here on the show, but they were sending us pillar to post to prove it. There's an empty chair for them.
That Ekse is also supported by UCT, who unfortunately couldn't join us. We invited them. The politics department, they didn't, reply to our request. And, it's quite interesting because there's a report that came out, was it last week, about racism in UCT.
Yeah.
So, but it's fine. On with the show we go.
Fine.
We do have Rondebosch High Boys today.
Yes.
So at least,
yeah. Speaking of Bantu Abanga reply here, thank you for you guys for responding to us. We made a call to you to enter competitions there to remember the following day, right? You're going to the Fashion Week. We said, it is still a competition.
So all you have to do is to go on our page, like the post, and then go on the AFI website and then share a screen grab of that on the website. And then you post it and let us know who are you looking forward to seeing on the runway.
And then Baba Rakuma, our producer, is going to announce the winners tomorrow, so make sure that you tune in to Ekse. And then we also have that competition here, comedy, blah, blah. And if you like to laugh, CISC Viva Nangomkobelo. So make sure that you tell us which comedian you'd love to see doing his stand-up. Some time ago, we went to SC Viva in the same venue. We spoke to advocate Mukai, somebody. Well, he's going to introduce himself on this clip. We'll be back quickly. Check it out. We're marking the 200th, what do you call it again?
200th anniversary of the Ngcele's War.
Frontier War.
The Fifth Frontier War.
Fifth Frontier War. Because Kuko is significant about this event. Why?
Because it was in April 1819 that Ngcele attempted to recapture Grahamstown, a city at the time that was of spiritual, moral, and economic significance to Xhosa nation. He was repelled and defeated by hundreds and hundreds of British soldiers. Today, we are on the 3rd of April, and it's exactly the same period that Ngcele attempted to recapture Grahamstown unsuccessfully. I think in my own research and writings that the Grahamstown War literally altered the history of the Eastern Frontier. Had the Xhosas been successful in that war, who knows what history would have been like today.
It's 200 years. Why do you think it has taken so long and the war has not been won yet?
Yes, 200 years in the course of a nation might appear short. We still talk of Napoleon. We still talk of the American Declaration of Independence. we still talk of the French Declaration of Independence. Those are events of the 1700s. And yet we still are not sure whether or not we were better or worse with or without those wars. So 200 years in the context where colonialism itself was 350 years in South Africa since the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck in 1652 is not too long in the history of a nation. And so the struggle itself continues. The point of today is making sure that we never forget where it all began.
What did advocate bring across and then you captured?
What the advocate bring across is within the space of the land issue, although it's very complicated and complex. However, there are victories along. It was not completed because of the strategy that they were doing. For example, if let's say you have a soldier army of 600 or 6,000 people fighting over 600 people, how can you get defeated?
Of course.
Meaning the strategy over the wars that they were fighting, they were not skills enough. Because you can't fight people who are on top but you are at the bottom. And also black people didn't have arms, obviously. They were fighting over with black people, with white people who were armed while they were not.
Yeah.
So I think that was a problem that they had. Also the legality of the land, because the other thing that the legality of the land, it was not based on title deed.
Yeah,
so
shortly, the importance of spaces like these, what are they?
I think like the importance is for us, in order to claim things, we must be able to be in a common understanding. So I think that's what is common. Also, if us as black people, we understand certain things, then we can be able to educate other white people saying, okay, if land was taken over a certain time, how can we be able to conscientize them to be within us in terms of fighting over?
Yeah.
Because within the space, there are white people who are saying they have been privileged. Obviously, they were privileged. Also, there are white people who have been able to accumulate a lot of money. So if we're saying like, how do we make sure that the means of production are being shared among? Are they able to be in the table and be able to talk with us in terms of that?
Well, I want you to tell me the difference between the liars you're talking about. Would say you're tired of liars. So zeziphi liars uthetha zezi parties that are promising things, or the people who took the land and said this land does not belong to you?
You see that I always blame the councillors because the one who always lies, the councillor. For example, Tina Pakovat 99, we're calling a councillor. Because the councillor, there's nothing I can do because if I'm signing this, then I'll be out of the order, blah, 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 blah. But today, they are needing our votes. You see what I mean?
Okay,
you see what you mean? So they sometimes the other politics, they just make the disease or the virus and cause the fight. Because as we speak now, we are planning, what are we going to do, because we don't have water, we don't have light, and it's been a long time we go to the councillor and say, councillor, we want this, we want this, we want this.
Speaking of never forgetting, I see that it turned out Aneesah is by the young people. Do you think that they understand the significance of these events?
Sometimes they appear not to be, but I was happy that they saw that today was about Ngcele's war, but they came in their numbers. But not only did they come in their numbers, they were also intensely engaged with the subject of the day. And so part of the sort of history that I'm interested in is popular history. History that is not stale or stored in textbooks, but history that is integrated in the experiences of the living.
Yeah, well, yes. Welcome back. Can I get a round of applause, guys? Yeah.
Doc Love is an initiative by documentaries.
Alma's voice just keeps creeping in. Yeah. But welcome back to the show. You're still watching your favorite show right here from the Mother City. It is Ekse on Cape Town TV. Today's topic is racism, and we asked you to share your thoughts on social media on the hashtag racism in Cape Town. And I think, Cape Town is one of those provinces that is reports on racism are very high. So we want to hear what you have to say about this topic. And we have Udalmeya Dale saying racism is bad and there's no difference between people or different races. But black people are better at basketball and white people are better at school because of their race. Okay, we're going to be discussing and unpacking all of that on the show today. And then we have another tweet by Prince01 Adonis saying, at Helen Zilla, when are you guys ready to talk about removing all those colonizers' statues in the city? They really depressing. Hashtag racism in Cape Town. Then the next one being from Zwakebele, saying, it's surprising that colored people suffer the same acts of racism in the hands of the white, but they seem to be quiet and invisible during anti-racism protests. Hashtag Clifton Beach, hashtag racism in Cape Town, hashtag Cape Town. Ladies and gents, we are in Cape Town, and I think it's time for us to get straight into the topic now. We are Cape Town citizens. We're currently residing in Cape Town. It seems like it that Cape Town is one of the provinces that is experiencing this epidemic the most. What are your thoughts on that?
First and foremost, does anybody understand what racism is? Let's unpack that.
Yes.
What is racism
Yes.
for somebody who's watching at home and they have no idea what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Anybody can take that. Maybe Lucia?
Open the stage. According to my personal understanding of racism, I would think that racism is when you discriminate against another race by thinking you're superior than that person, just based on the skin of their color. You're better than them, or what else? Someone can add on. Anybody?
Yeah.
Anyone
So
can add on?
inferiority coming up as a major thing. Anyone from this side? Like, okay, I think we should. What is everyone's definition of racism? Perhaps we can all just add in on what we think racism is.
I think it's like whenever you generalize about someone's race, obviously in a derogatory manner, trying to bring someone down just because of the color of the skin, like you said, it is very much a discriminative thing.
Okay.
And that's kind of my view. It's very broad.
Yeah.
It's a very broad thing, but then there are obviously very specific things that go with it.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a very general
Aneesah?
statement.
Your thoughts?
I think the guy here in Lucia basically covered most of it, like how everybody sees it within Cape Town. So from my I have nothing to add. Lucia took everything just by saying you discriminate another person by their color.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they've said, it's just discriminating against someone based on the color of their skin, to put them down, to suppress them, to make them feel inferior in some sort of way. So it could be just being insensitive towards another race or being ignorant. So obviously it's a very, very broad topic, but that's like my understanding of it is discrimination.
Yeah. Labalwa?
I think they said it all. I think everyone is going to keep on repeating the same thing, like the four of them said. It's discriminating the other person based on their skin color or skin tone, thinking that you're superior or better than that person.
Yeah.
What makes the topic of racism a taboo topic? People hold back. They don't want to talk about it. However, when it happens, people are up in arms. They want to fight. They want to shout. They want to scream. I remember an incident, Izolo, we went to UCT and we were asking the same question. And this particular lady, her skin pickled of goosebumps. And it gave my mind a pause enough, ducks to make way over my head. And I'm thinking, it's a question. What is racism? What do you think of the matter, racism? So, Sia, why do you think it's so that people do not want to open their mouth when you're asked, what is racism? What do you think about it?
I think it's a very sensitive topic, hence why we do put out a disclaimer that we are dealing with a very sensitive topic. So if ever there's any triggery topics or there's things that can be said, please be aware. So I think it's basically about that it's a very sensitive topic, and we want to duck and dive, even though indirectly we experience it every day. But I would like to pose a question to the audience about the power dynamics and the power relations of race. What do you guys think about that? I think particularly in Cape Town, with our hashtag today, racism in Cape Town. What do you guys think about that?
Going back to the definition of race, I think racism rather, there are people that think that racism is more than just about skin color. Racism is about power. Hence, there's a notion out there that black people cannot be racist because you cannot be racist without any power. You cannot fully discriminate if you don't have power. How are you going to exert that discrimination if you don't have any economic power or power in any form? So there's a lot of power dynamics, as you say, that goes into practical racism, going
Marcus?
over and beyond theory.
Marcus, what do you think about the power relations? Especially, we can even take it within, you know, your smaller community, your school. What do you think about, you know, power relations? And I'm sure you guys all live, you know, in harmony at school.
Okay, on that, like there is inferiority and like superiority. Like when it comes to like having friends of like different races, that really helps with like breaking it and like getting that sense of equality back, which we need. But there are boys who like don't know how to deal with that. So like, if you like being racist amongst your one race like friend group, like you don't know what someone of another race like feels about that, and you will never know if you like don't befriend them and like talk to them.
Just on that, so are you saying that there's actually certain groups within school, maybe during break, you know, all the blacks chill together, all the whites chill together, all the colors chill together? Is that what you're saying?
It's the minority. Like most of us are like multiracial friend groups.
Okay, great.
But there's that small tendency to like go with what you're familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where is racism really taught? Because I remember when we were still in creche, nobody saw skin color. Of course, I know that you're different from me, but we're not judging each other. Genaya skin, like the colored, the black, the white. We sharing sandwiches and lollipops, even though it was unhygienic. Germs.
But I don't think we even think of it.
Yeah. So you're a little child. You're 5, you're 6. You have friends, and then at 8, at 12, you start viewing people as white, black. Where is racism taught?
Most will say it starts at home, which I'm assuming is true. But also, to go back to the first question, what is racism? He brought up power, and it's also a system beyond your skin color. There's a whole system that stop you as a black person or progress you as a white person, which is racist in itself. So part of that system, to me, is what you watch on TV, what you listen on radio, what you see in society, where the black person is always the maid, and so forth. That already gives you a sense of you're always my helper. When you go to a garage, you always see a black person at the pump sending stuff. You'll always see that person, okay? I think society is starting to build this idea that, okay, this is what black people are. So in a way, for me, racism, teaching racism is also society and the system itself.
And perhaps like the systematic element comes from the fact that colonization happened, and that's what brought about the systems that we see, you know, today. And should we go back in time and revisit those systems, you know, just to remind ourselves of where we come from, or do we now move on and see the future? But how do we avoid looking forward without seeing the back, without analyzing where we are right now, because it's still an issue?
We can't fix what's happening in the future we can't continue with the future without fixing what was wrong in the past.
Yes.
So if, sometimes I bring it down to equality as well, because racism is a strong sense of equal or unequalness, I feel. And fixing the system that was started with colonization will get us to a point where I believe and hope that there is no racism in the future. That's my perspective.
Yeah.
You know, I spoke to someone who is at Stellenbosch, who unfortunately, Stellenbosch also didn't reply to our email. Yeah, unfortunately. And it's so funny how he said that there in Stellenbosch, white people actually are sort of racist towards each other. The English, you know, feel some type of way towards the Boer. I don't know if, is it Jasquin. I don't know. Okay, you don't live in Stellenbosch, do you? No. Yeah. But what do you think of that? You know, where the English feel some sort of superiority complex as compared to, you know, Afrikaners?
I don't know. I am half Afrikaans and half English.
Oh, that's an interesting.
So it's
like
yes.
It's something that I haven't really experienced a lot of.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in Stellenbosch or in areas that they're obviously Stellenbosch is a very Afrikaans area. It's somewhat scary to me.
Yeah.
It's like, and then I don't know.
Maybe
I feel like
maybe it's actually got to do with the territory in the
exactly. So it's like I feel like Afrikaans people feel like there's like some Afrikaans people have not been exposed to enough or are still stuck in old enough ways for them to not want to deal with anyone but people of their own.
What you're familiar with.
Actually, do you know how come that is so? Because it's post-apartheid era.
I know, exactly.
We are 25 years old.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is Afrikaans people that have a lot of Afrikaans people that stay in the same that don't that aren't exposed to the new South Africa don't get to experience what that is like, and therefore I think they're stuck in their old.
So would you say racism is taught at home?
I would say that completely because just on like because you get a lot of Afrikaans people that have moved maybe into Cape Town, like into the center of Cape Town. I feel like in that way you integrate yourself a lot more and see a lot more. Obviously, I'm not saying you see the whole of it, the whole of the problem, but I'm saying you at least get exposed to a bit more.
You know, it's interesting that you said that because I was watching the news on Saturday or on Sunday, and there's a part of Northern Cape that's been marked and gated to be whites only. This is a fact in South Africa in 2019, an area that has now been stated, and like no black people are allowed because the Afrikaans people feel like they're being marginalized in South Africa, in the new South Africa. Therefore, they are making their own space that's just for them and serves their interest. That space will be able to fit 200,000 homes, including schools and hospitals, and they're in process of building all of that.
Wow.
So that's South Africa that we're living in today, and are we aware of those? And if those are still currently happening, will racism end?
Well, somebody said that racism is washing your white clothes first, and then you with your black clothes. That's racism when you're doing your laundry. Well, let us know what you think racism is. Hashtag racism in Cape Town. Our hashtag that is, and it's Ekse_live on Twitter. On Facebook, it's Ekse on Cape Town TV. The number to dial 021-448-0448. The topic is heating up. You do not want to miss any of these views. We're going to a quick ad break. You better come around.
It's a Thursday afternoon, and my oh my, I'm very much excited about this weekend coming up. It is Fashion Week, and as Llama said earlier on the show that we're giving away tickets tomorrow for that competition. So please do tune in on our show. Speaking of tuning in, we hope that you're tuned in on our hashtag for today. It's hashtag racism in Cape Town, and we'd like to ask you once again to interact with us on social media. We're at Ekse_live on Twitter, and share with us your thoughts on hashtag racism in Cape Town. Okay, we have next one by NYX McLean saying, my blood is boiling. Some high school kid decided it was okay to tell the staff at Camille on Harrington not to speak this language around her. Not surprising, she's white. Hashtag racism in Cape Town. The next one being from Umandosi saying, Cape Town, physically pretty, but so ugly on the inside. Unfortunately, no surgery for an ugly heart. Hashtag racism in Cape Town. Listen, we went to have a chat with Professor Haupt and Nathan Bradley on the book titled Never and Never Again. Check it out.
This rhyme is all about social capture state crimes and state rights.
We are outside University of Cape Town's upper campus where we're about to meet Professor Hub, Bradley, who is a producer, as well as Nathan, who is a poet. We're talking never again, hip-hop art, activism, and education post-South Africa apartheid. So now we want to hear the views about the role that hip-hop plays, racism, day and age of hip-hop, and how we can together as a nation move forward, and most importantly, what that book can do for the younger generation as hip-hop has done for the older generation. Their views are coming up when we head over to their office. Stay tuned right here on Ekse. #racism, what do you think about it?
But people magic, but it's so tragic that the man with
Never again, hip-hop art, activism, and education in post-apartheid South Africa is a culmination of decades of work on hip-hop culture and hip-hop activism in South Africa. But that's just a tip of an iceberg. So I'm with Bradley, Professor Haupt, and Nathan. Thank you so much for your time. Want to find out what's the book about, but most interestingly, the first answer I want to find is never again. Is it coming from where I think it is?
It is. Should I do my Mediva?
Yes.
On the title. It takes its cue from Nelson Mandela's speech, the inaugural speech in '94. And the line goes something like, never and never again shall it be that this beautiful land shall again experience the oppression of one by another. So this is the most famous line from that speech. And the idea is that the book is meant to pay homage to Nelson Mandela, to that moment, but also reference Prophets of the City's song, Never Again, which is, again, celebrating this democratic moment. And the introductory line to the song by POC is excellent. Finally, a black president who represents, and then the rhyme scheme goes on from there. And so the idea is that this hip-hop crew, the first hip-hop crew to record in the country, to actually push boundaries and to push for multilingual approaches to music making, validating what is happening in townships all around the country. People, helping people to fall in love with their mother tongue, to be comfortable in their skins as free black South Africans. You have this song celebrating the moment, but at the same time this crew was also critical of calls for reconciliation. And the punchline was, despite drives for South Africans to forgive and forget, we need to exercise the critical faculties. We need to be conscious as voters. We need to be conscious of who the oppressors are. We do not need to be in a situation where we get sold out sometime down the line. And so the album before Funk Flow, on which the song Never Again features, was an album called Age of Truth. And that entire album got banned. And so the first single was called Understand Where I'm Coming From. And that's how I started doing research in hip-hop. I'm watching the Toyota Top 20, presented by Lawrence Dubé and Neil Johnson. And they play this song, which is clearly about to be banned. They play it on national TV, and I'm surprised to hear they didn't just play it on the Toyota Top 20, they played it the day before, I think, on Breakfast TV. And the song was this incendiary, the scathing artwork that challenged both the National Party and the ANC's drive for reconciliation.
Okay, so it got banned because it was released during the apartheid era.
It's still '93. We were not a democracy. We were in a state of civil war, you might say. And, their approach was no justice, no peace.
We grew up in difficult situations, but because of hip hop, we were able to channel our energies, and it gave us a voice, either through dancing or to emceeing. Then later on, in hip hop, I started to write, and then I found out I can do this and I can do that. Today, the difference for me is it's more modernized. It's like a religion of back in the days where there were certain rules that you need to abide by. Today, that rules are kicked out. I'm doing this and I'm doing that and the other. Back then, it was more about the message, encouraging people to stand up and to stand together. Today, hip hop, I'm talking of one avenue of hip hop here, and this is mainly music as one of the biggest thing that is a challenge for me today, especially when it comes to young people, the type of message that they affiliate to hip hop. And sometimes it's not hip hop, but people, society see it as hip hop because the understanding of hip hop is not there anymore, like we used to understand it and what hip hop did for us.
Your take on racism in Cape Town, Bradley, Nathan, Prof?
Racism's winning. Racism won, the people zero.
Cape Town is very divided, and that's the honest truth. It's very divided. I mean, apart from economically wise, money wise, the rich and the poor, the rich is living so close to each other, but the divide is so massive. You know, there's no room for middle ground. It's either you're very rich or you're very poor. And then the lie we are being told that we cannot welcome people from other countries into our communities, you know, and that's also becoming a big problem. Besides the racism we face here on a daily amongst each other, now we still have international people also running away from a struggle. And so I'd say in Cape Town it's still really bad. It's a very divided city.
Entry, a private sentry at every entry point. At every point, it's a private joint with property taxes and low-rent controls, keeping the wealthy well consoled. That caps from the Cape Flats would never match that. That fat caps and boom baps would never spoil that. Property value, that property that you would only ever see when you drive by. One in the hood, the drive-bys. One in the hood, the bitter goodbyes. Reduce the value of lives, black lives, you value.
If it's worth fighting for, yeah. Brain teaser. So you need to listen to this one. It goes like this. Yeah. So many social ills, so many young boys and girls with mad skills, OD on drugs and party pills. So many school dropouts on the Cape Flats. Our young men joined in gangs as most vandala fled. We are a race labeled colors by the boere. In apartheid was ons mos hulle slawe. Ja master, maar ek is klaar met die vloere. Who's to be blamed for this mess? Another brain teaser to put your mind to the test. Nevertheless, kry ons mense so swaar. Ons brein mense, hulle maak mekaar klaar met the messed up system van capitalism. Dryf ons tot vandalism. It's like suicide. As ons mense who died en nog altyd die, en nog altyd die, en nog altyd die. Crazy die. If it's worth fighting for when our demise is in the
Oh man, listen, art is one of those ways in which you can express yourself and fully do so. And we've seen just from the clip that Professor Haupt read there at UCT is using the sphere of hip-hop to transcend a message. And in this case, it is about racism and, you know, the epidemic that is facing the Western Cape and particularly Cape Town. But not only Cape Town, you guys. As I've mentioned before, we went to the insert that there are areas in Cape Town that have been marked and gated to being whites only. And we are in 2019, 25 years post-democracy, but we are still having spaces and marked areas that are solely for white people. What are your thoughts on that?
It doesn't shock me. It's not shocking because besides from the physical segregation that goes on, like she said, even the system itself, the systematic and institutionalization, is that a word, of racism, in that first of all you get financial exclusion. That's how racism operates in South Africa. They know that by upping the property prices, they know that black people, because of the economic disadvantaged position that we find ourselves in, we won't afford those. Things like the Gautrain, for example, is predominantly white because they know that a lot of the black people will not afford. So that's how they gatekeep racism in South Africa. Another way, other than the physical, I forgot the second. Language. Somebody touched on Stellenbosch, English and Afrikaans, and language is being used as a tool to preserve racism. We know that in UP, I think, Tex, and also Stellenbosch, it was a huge thing, the language policy, English and Afrikaans, and somebody mentioned the antagonism that's present between the Afrikaans and English community. And I come from a small town which is predominantly Afrikaans, and I know for a fact that white people unite when it comes to whiteness, whether they're English, there's this antagonism between the English and the Afrikaans. But when it comes a time to preserve whiteness and be racist, white people will come together, because you have white students that are English, but when they go to varsity, they will go to these Afrikaans classes. Starting from school, you have kids that are of English descent, but go to Afrikaans classes. You have black kids or colored kids that understand Afrikaans, and Afrikaans is a second language or first language even at home, but they don't go to Afrikaans classes because institutionalized Afrikaans is white Afrikaans meant to preserve whiteness.
Yeah.
Now, actually, on the topic of language, a lot. Okay, personally, what I've experienced is that white people would not want to necessarily speak Nguni language, or at max they will speak 2 languages, whereas on average a person in South Africa speaks probably 3 languages. So what is your take on that? That sometimes should we make it actually part of our constitution? That people should know more than 2 languages or 3.
The education department, I know in Gauteng, has already passed the law. I don't know whether it's transcended to a national scale, in that every school is to teach an African language as it's a must. It's in the legislature. Everyone.
But now in that context,
yes.
In that context, because remember that you get to choose your. If I'm right as well, you'll correct me with the high school subjects choices. Don't you still get to choose between Afrikaans and African language?
Not anymore. Not with Afrikaans is not out. It can be out. It depends on which school you go, but every school will teach an African language, and that does not count Afrikaans.
Okay.
Every school at the end of the day will teach an African language, and I know this is in Gauteng. I don't know about other provinces. And also somebody mentioned about the school environment. I think it was the gentleman next to me before we rearranged ourselves. The school environment is that also the types of education systems that we have in South Africa, because we've got about 3 tiers of education in South Africa, is also meant to separate us in terms of race. The private school education, obviously more expensive and afforded by white people, and then you have more the public formal Model C education, which I want to speak about the issue of integration, where the ANC and the previous government or dispensation wanted to integrate forcefully. But what we saw out of that system, the Model C system, is that instead of kids segregating, kids were just together in those hours, and also we had the language policy keeping them apart. And after that, if you go to varsity, those groups, interracial groups, are not there anymore. Even in high school, they are a minority. I'm glad to hear the gentleman say that now, because it's been a while since I was in high school. I'm glad to hear the gentleman say that now the minority are people who do not want to mix. But what we saw at the beginning, when in 1992 the government allowed a mixing of races, was that people were together for those 8 hours at school in their separate races, and those that did form, if after high school it was done and dusted. So we are still a separate, a segregated society to the core.
Of course, you can join in the conversation via our social media platforms, on Twitter as well as on Facebook. Well, we went to the streets and we asked a couple of people what racism is and how it affects them. So let's check it out.
Beautiful day, amazing sea, and not one sign. Heaven on earth.
Coward. I'm a Whatever you want to call yourself, you call yourself. I know you're recording it. You call yourself whatever you like.
Now you on camera saying and you're a lawyer.
You coward.
I got you on camera.
Go yourself, you coward.
I got you on camera.
Go yourself. You ran my wife down. You ran away.
I got you.
Hit and run, you piece of
camera calling me a
Yeah, for your mother.
For my mother?
Yeah.
The police are on their way. Let's see how you handle this.
Bring the police. A coward.
I'm a
Whatever you want to call yourself, you call yourself. I know you're recording it. You call yourself whatever you like.
Now you on camera saying
You would answer one of the 50 calls that I made. Instead, I get sued to these people that just got, I don't know what, you know, I can't stand it. I am so sick of it.
On the computer station, I'm trying to assist you. I'm trying to assist you. But first of all, I need to explain to you that I'm not going to allow you to insult my colleagues like this.
Listen, yeah, I'm not going to change my mind. I hate
Wow, coward. I don't know who's the coward, the bully or the victim.
I really think it's the bully, but what do the others think?
Well, I think you're a coward if you do not come back to us because there's more to talk about. Let's go to a quick ad break. And when we come back, we shake the coward out of you.
And interact with us on the show. You can see that's a Kobizanga man. System Deni because it is a Thursday and this is your favorite show. It is Ekse on Cape Town TV. If you'd like to call on the show and interact with us on our topic today, the number to dial is 021-448-0448 or go into social media. Twitter, we are at Ekse_live. On Facebook, we are at Ekse on Cape Town TV. And speaking of social media, we asked you to go onto Twitter, Facebook and interact with us on the hashtag racism in Cape Town. And you guys have been doing the right thing and sharing with us your thoughts and your ideas on what you think about this epidemic. And I say epidemic because it's a national crisis that we need to solve and resolve very, very soon. This one is from Umzu Up saying, we need a million march against racism in Cape Town. It's our land, folks, black and white. Hashtag racism in Cape Town. This one saying from Umzwandile saying, hey, yes, Ekse, we need to address and to deal with this. And we're doing exactly that. Today we have a studio audience. Give yourselves a round of applause. Yes.
Sonke, welcome to the show. Can you grab the microphone and let me know if you think whether the powers that be, I'm talking about the government, are failing us when it comes to curbing the enthusiasm in racism?
I think the government is failing us because it's the one that's supposed to unite us as Africans and to bridge the gap between the racism between the white and the black. So the government is failing us on that.
But didn't Nelson Mandela do that for us?
Yes, Nelson Mandela did that, but it's for us now to take the action.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I have this question for Aneesah. We're speaking of Aneesah, sorry, the thing of being black and white, and you colored. Where does this topic of racism put you, or where do you see yourself as when we're discussing this topic?
Well, for me, I don't feel that I've never experienced racism as personally, because I mean, I work with African black people and I work with white people, and being in the middle, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's not, because especially in Cape Town, Cape Town is known as a colored area. So when people see Cape Town, they think colored people. And coming from a colored person, I feel that a lot of people in Cape Town doesn't really unite when it comes to having colored people and black people and white people as in one. they always have this mindset of, you know what, it's Cape Town, we colored people stand together. We don't care about how white people feel or how black people feel. So I feel that is where the mindset needs to start changing. Because I mean, we surrounded by a free nation. Like there's different races within Cape Town, and I feel that we all need to stand together instead of standing each race on its own. We all need to stand up and stand together.
As a white person, do you think that because we find that a lot, we're very passionate about the topic of racism, and as black people, we're very much vocal about it. Do you think as a white person that you're being attacked, do you ever feel like being attacked, and do you think that black people can be racist towards you as well, or is it, what's your take on that?
Personally, when it comes to race, white people, some are more vocal than others, but I think the ones that, white people that are around conversations or have done even a small amount of research will know that it's not, especially in the Cape Town and South African context, it's not really their place to be super vocal about racial injustice. And I can say that, I don't know, in a school, especially in a school environment, so a lot of schools, especially in our area, in the Rondebosch area, are predominantly white. And I feel like being exposed to racial conversations can only do good. Because once that gets started and thoughts can start being made in their heads, then they can try to start making a difference.
As someone who's white, who I guess you have white people around you, family and friends, why do they say, or rather, why do they express that some of them could be engaged in racism? Why do you think white people are racist in South Africa or generally in the world?
I think it's an issue, like I've been saying, it's very much an issue of exposure.
Okay.
And a lot of white people hang on to, like the Stellenbosch situation we were talking about, hang on to what they had in the past. And it's normal, I feel, in society that people stick to what they're used to. So when that gets too comfortable, then I think it starts to get a bit negative.
But the question is then, if they're sticking to what they're used to, isn't that affecting, or rather to the detriment of others? It's then a problem, I guess. But we have a comment or a question from our teacher right over here.
Just a comment. So racism is alive and well in Cape Town, and we need to acknowledge that.
Yes.
But then we also need to talk about how do we repair the situation, how do we create healing, how do we create harmony. And it's a tough job, and it's a slow process, but we need to be courageous and we need to take on the challenge. So at my job at school, part of my job is around transformation and dealing with that type of healing. So an approach was, we spoke about mental health, which, what has that got to do with racism? But mental issues affect all races. So that's something that unites us. And we've actually made great progress in that area. We looked at sexuality. You have coloreds, blacks, Indians, whites, who have different sexual preferences. And this is an area that can unite us. We look at the environment. We all care about the environment. And then we look at the real heavier issues like black identity. And we look at what's the issues around how do black people, how they received. And then just you need to actually deal with the heavy issues, but deal with it in a very decent way. We had some brilliant discussions with Westerford's People of Color group, very open, and we had young people, all different races in the room, and speaking so positively, and in a very, personally just so encouraging to see that young people are, I believe, on board. And we need to just face the tough questions and get through it.
Yeah,
and the young people have the ability to do it.
Acknowledge that I'm racist and I need to change my ways.
Yeah.
And that's the first step. And then you let go, you let leave, you leave and let leave. Guys, that's what we've got time for today. Heavy topic tomorrow. Sizo Jiva, make sure that you come back. And if you missed this particular episode, it's on YouTube in the morning. It's Ekse on Cape Town TV. Tomorrow morning, channel 263 between 7 and 8. Lip sync battle, everybody. You better tune in. It's gonna be singing. Q is singing. Everybody is singing. But right now, it's for us to say goodbye.
Bye, darlings.